People change, circumstances shift, and sometimes, no matter how much you try to hold on, things slip away. Understanding impermanence doesn't make it easy, but it gives a sense of peace. It teaches us that life, in all its complexity, is constantly flowing like a river. We can't stop the current, but we can learn to move with it rather than against it. Suffering as a teacher. In Buddhism, suffering, dukkha, is considered an integral part of the human experience. This may seem like a pessimistic view, but in reality, it is a liberating understanding. The Buddha taught that suffering is a teacher, a mirror that reflects the nature of our existence. When we stop resisting suffering and start to understand it, we begin to uncover deeper truths about life. Take a moment to think about a time when you experienced deep disappointment or loss. At that moment, it probably felt like the pain would never end. But with time, the intensity of the pain faded. That's the nature of suffering. It comes and goes. By accepting that suffering is part of life, we can begin to see it as a tool for personal growth. Story of the Broken Cup. One of the most famous Buddhist stories that illustrate the understanding of impermanence and suffering is the story of a monk who had a favorite cup. He used it every day, appreciating its beauty and practicality. One day, the cup accidentally broke. But instead of feeling sorrow, the monk smiled. He had always understood that the cup was already broken. He had accepted its impermanence long before it shattered. This mindset can be applied to anything in life. Whether it's relationships, material possessions, or even our own bodies, everything is subject to change and decay. The more we resist this fact, the more we suffer. But when we accept it, we find peace. Personal story of attachment. I remember when I was younger, I had a prized possession, a watch that my father had given me. I cherished it deeply, wearing it every day. One day I lost it while traveling, and I was devastated. I couldn't believe that something so meaningful to me could be gone just like that. But as time passed, I realized that my attachment to the watch was the source of my suffering. It wasn't the loss of the watch itself that caused me pain, but my inability to accept that nothing lasts forever, finding meaning in impermanence. So how do we find meaning in life when everything is constantly changing? The answer lies in letting go of our need for permanence. Instead of clinging to things, we learn to appreciate the present moment. When we stop expecting things to last forever, we open ourselves up to the beauty and richness of each experience. Buddhism teaches us that by understanding and accepting impermanence, we can live more fully. Each moment becomes precious because we know it will never come again. This doesn't mean that life is meaningless, quite the opposite. It means that life is incredibly precious because it is so fleeting. Living with compassion. Another key aspect of Buddhist teachings is the practice of compassion and loving kindness, metta. In a world that is constantly changing, one of the few things that we can control is how we treat others. By cultivating compassion for ourselves and others, we create a sense of connection and purpose in our lives. One way to practice compassion is through small acts of kindness. Holding the door open for someone, offering a smile to a stranger, or simply listening to a friend can have a profound impact. These small gestures may seem insignificant, but they have the power to transform both our lives and the lives of others. A story of compassion in daily life. There's a beautiful story of a woman who once visited a Buddhist temple. She was going through a difficult time and was filled with anger and frustration. She didn't know how to cope with her emotions. At the temple, she met a monk who invited her to join a meditation session focused on loving kindness. At first, the woman was skeptical, but as she meditated, she began to feel a sense of calm and compassion. The monk explained that by cultivating compassion for herself, she could extend that same kindness to others. This simple practice helped her transform her pain into peace. Final reflection: embracing change for a meaningful life. At the end of the day, the true meaning of life, according to Buddhism, is not found in material success or external validation. It's found in our ability to embrace change, live in the present moment, and practice compassion for ourselves and others. By letting go of our attachment to things that cannot last, we free ourselves from the suffering that comes from clinging to the past or fearing the future. As we continue on this journey of self-discovery, let us remember the words of the Buddha. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. thoughts shape our reality, and by cultivating mindfulness, compassion, and acceptance, we can create a life filled with meaning, peace, and true fulfillment. Conclusion: lessons from Buddhist teachings. In conclusion, life's true meaning, as seen through the lens of Buddhism, is not about what we achieve or accumulate. It's about how we live, how we treat others, and how we navigate the constant flow of change. By accepting the impermanence of all things and cultivating compassion, we find peace not in avoiding suffering, but in embracing it as a part of life's natural rhythm. As you reflect on these teachings, remember that each moment is an opportunity to live fully and meaningfully. Life is precious, not because it lasts forever, but because it doesn't.